Hello everyone, I'm Lino Farah, the host of Cribwolf Talks. Cribwolf Talks spotlights social organizations by offering them an opportunity to showcase their services to members of our community, seen as vulnerable and underserviced, which includes individuals with developmental disabilities, often referred to as the silent minority. People with diverse abilities require deeply affordable housing. Having said this, a roof over their head does not provide them with the fullness of life they deserve. People with diverse abilities require access to support services, whether 1 hour a day or 24/7, employment, healthy foods, community engagement, and to experience inclusivity. Staying with this belief, Cribwolf Talks has produced 3 interesting episodes about a wonderful social organization that I recently visited called Kerr Street Mission, located in the heart of Oakville, Ontario. Kerr Street Mission developed 4 core programs focused on family services, covering food insecurity, children and youth development, and the family network. Our show begins with candid discussion with Gary O'Neill, the Executive Director of Kerr Street Mission. Well, welcome to our program, Cribwolf Talks. Gary, here we are in your office at Kerr Street Mission, downtown Oakville, and we're very pleased that you were able to allow us into your facility, and I look forward to it. I put some questions down for you that I'd like our audience to learn about your place, right? And so I think we just begin with the first question is, how did Kerr Street Mission come about? Like, when did it start? What happened, type of thing? And
yeah, so in 1995, there was a building built across the street, which is a housing building. It's 52 units. And there was this feeling of, what a great project. We're giving people housing. Some were subsidized, some were below market rent. But it was when people moved in that they realized that that was only a small part of the equation. People didn't have furniture, they were struggling to put food on the table. Their kids didn't have anywhere to go after school or in the summer, which meant then the parents, if they were able to work, couldn't work. And so out of that came a vision of how can we come alongside families and help them? How can we respond to the specific needs they have? So it started off as a food co-op that later evolved into a food bank. There's a summer camp started, after school program started, and that was really the beginning of what Kerr Street Mission is today.
wow, so the building was here. So did you purchase this building? Was it a difficult?
Initially, we were in the basement of that building, and interestingly, bylaws required a certain amount of parking spots, but only a small percentage of people had cars, so the parking lot was sitting empty. So they allowed them to create some rooms in there. And it was dark, it was cold, it wasn't a great place to be able to care for people. And so this was a parking lot, and it had previously been a gas station, and a donor donated the entire land, which was about $1 million donation. And then over the course of time, they created the vision for this building. So it opened in 2010 on this spot, and I've been here since 2013.
Wow, wonderful. So, I had the luxury of coming through here a couple of weeks ago with my production manager, Matt George, and he showed us around. And so in essence, there's 4 core programs that you offer here, right? And obviously, the food insecurity, you have the young children's programs, progress to the youth development, and family network, the neighborhood network program, which we're going to get into. But let's start with food insecurity. We've had the food insecurity issue on our program many times. Oakville Food Bank here around the corner, other ones, and it's a growing issue. With we won't get into the politics, but our neighbor to the south is making things even worse, and there was a crisis to start with. So you do have your first core program that deals with, how do you address the food insecurity in this Kerr Street Mission?
Yeah, food insecurity is usually what brings people here the first time. And so when people are struggling to put food on the table and feed themselves and their kids, that's when they'll put their hand up and say, I need help. We initially started out like most organizations where we would ask for donations. We'd get a lot of non-perishable food items, so boxes and cans, and we would just redistribute it and try to take some of the financial pressure off of people by reducing their costs for groceries and making sure they had something that they could eat. Over time, we realized that it's just not healthy food, and there's so many implications of not eating well that we've changed that and really focused on how can we get people healthy food. So we work to provide fresh produce, proteins, as well as the non-perishable items, but we've tried to choose healthier non-perishable items. And we allow people to come in and shop weekly. Part of that reason is for the personal contact, but also in terms of produce. Produce is going to last 7 to 10 days. Some things might last 2 weeks. So it just gives them a chance to have a continual flow of fresh, healthy food. If you think about, the cost of groceries today, and it keeps going up every year, taking that cost off them. So not only do they have healthy food, but now it frees up money for your rent or for, other essential costs. We really want to make sure that people can get here. And usually food banks, again, this isn't meant to be critical, for a variety of reasons they're limited in terms of the times that they can offer their food bank. And so we have tried to take all those barriers away. So our food bank is open 10 times a week. We've got daytime slots, we've got evening slots, we have a weekend slot. We do community delivery. We discovered, it was pretty obvious during COVID that there was people that, their health was compromised and they were told not to go out. And so we started delivering during that time. But there's a lot of people that are shut-ins, have mobility issues. So I think there's about 106 or 108 families that are receiving deliveries. And so people have access to food, good, healthy food, if they need it. And most people need to go to more than one food bank. What we've tried to say is, can we provide people enough that they don't have to run around to multiple places and they're going to have the core of their diet and a healthy diet? And we also know that people in poverty have often got there because of mental health issues. But we also know that when people are under the financial stress and really, struggling and worrying and sacrificing things because of their financial stress, that mental health issues often come. So anxieties, often depression. And there's a direct correlation between eating healthy and mental health. And so feeding people consistently a dependable supply of healthy food is really critical.
That's great. I mean, the delivery component is essential. It's really key. It is volunteers that drive food out to the people's homes, regardless of their location.
Yeah, we have a volunteer that actually calls each and every family, and so they go through, we call it a food market, so people can actually shop through the different items. So they'll go through what's available, what do you need, and they'll make a list. And then we have a group of volunteers that pack it early on a Wednesday morning.
Oh, wonderful.
And then we have a team of volunteers. They take about 4 or 5 packs, so 4 or 5 families, and they deliver it right to their door.
But I noticed when I come in, the bread component. The bread is a staple item. Is that which are really known for? Like a lot of people come here, regardless of the time of the day, and you always had this bread at the lobby area. And is there a supplier that you've dealt with for years that has helped you?
The Cobb's on the lakeshore.
Cobb's.
The owner there is fantastic. I think last year was $57,000 worth of bread. So we will send volunteers at the end of the day, each day, and they'll help them pack it into big garbage bags, plastic bags, and then they'll come here. And then in the morning we have volunteers, 2 or 3 volunteers will come in and repack it into smaller bags. And then it goes out on the shelves in the lobby. And so people can come anytime and get bread.
Wow.
And we get, there's a combination of things in the food bank. So there's purchased produce and proteins, because that's the only way we can guarantee the supply we need. And we're really focused on a consistent and dependable supply. So it doesn't matter if you're at the beginning of the line or the end of the line, the same food's going to be available for you. We also work with another organization that goes to the grocery stores. And so things that are near the end of their date, instead of it going into the landfill, will come. We just need to redistribute it quickly, and then we have the non-perishables.
These partnerships are so vital. I mean, Cobb's, all the other sponsors. Without them, you wouldn't be able to do this wonderful service to our community. So let's move on to the second core program that I had written down a question. Is that you provide services to children between 5 and 17, but there are different stages, right? So maybe you could walk us through how is your children's core program structured here at the Kerr Street Mission?
Yeah. I should have mentioned with our food security, we also do meals 5-6 times a week.
Oh, yeah.
So there's 5 community meals and 1 youth meal, which the youth actually do for themselves with the help of a couple of adults. But it was during those meals that I remember looking at the people that came, and a lot of people came to the same meal, they came for every meal. And what I realized is we have people that are really lonely, and they just need to get out and they need to be in community. And we know that's really important for people. We also saw people that had, they could be 40 or 50 years old, and because of addiction issues or maybe a mental health issue, they didn't finish high school, they don't have a degree, they don't have a chance to either get a job or get a good job. And so they're going to be here forever, coming and needing help. And that's okay, we'll be here for them. But at that time, I remember thinking, our children and youth program is way more important than I realized before. And we have to focus on developing these kids. At the time, it was more giving them fun recreation, keeping them out of trouble because they had somewhere to go, taking the financial pressure off of their parents by providing this program. But we realized that we need to really invest and develop them. So we start off with what we call kids clubs. So that's kindergarten to grade 5.
Okay.
And they have a whole bunch of really extracurricular activities. So there's taekwondo, there's a sports club, there's art, there's been dance, we've had Lego robotics. So every semester it changes to keep it interesting. And we have a partnership with Kumon Learning Center. So I think right now we have 16 kids that are going for the extra tutoring. We have some retired high school teachers that come in another day to do tutoring with them. We have always kind of options happening for those kids. When they graduate at grade 5 into grade 6 up to grade 8, we do what we call Youth Connected. And so there's a variety of things. There's sports, there's drop-in. Right now they're just finishing up a program called Kidswear. So they were encouraged to come up with a slogan, sort of their voice on a t-shirt. And they put it into a computer graphics program, and now they've actually screen printed it onto a shirt. And now they're going to do a presentation this week. They're going to stand up and they're going to explain to the rest of the kids and some of the staff about what what their voice is saying on their t-shirt. So it's a kind of an entrepreneurial program. And there's also a Girls Connected. So the boys would love to come and play sports and go on their video games. And so it's hard to get them to be involved in other things, but we needed something specific for the girls. And a great little club they do a variety of different things, and it's self-directed, but it creates community. And again, there's mentorship with the leaders. And there's also mentorship where when they get to high school, we have a leadership and training program. And so they work with those leaders in training, but they also start to dream about when they could be a leader in training. And we have this theory that if you give someone responsibility, they're going to rise to the challenge, or sometimes we fail, right? We don't meet our expectations. As long as those failures aren't too big, it's in those 2 times that people really learn and develop. And so now we have these kids that sometimes connect when they're this big, and they're here for a number of years. Some connect at different ages, but they start to see the vision of they can be a leader one day. And then when they're a leader, they develop skills and start to understand responsibility. And there's this ladder of opportunities with the idea of, can we develop them into people that can be successful in whatever they do?
Well, I really like the idea and what you just said about, you start with a child, at the age of 5, and through these various programs and their growth, they actually move through the program, and they're here for a long period of time. It's not just one place, and then at 7 years of age they leave, and that's the end of it. It's just like there's a place to grow here, and I think the families probably really appreciate that, eh?
Yeah, they do. Can I tell you a story about one young guy?
Listen, that's what I'm here for. I want to hear some stories.
So there was a family that moved here from Syria, and so they had to leave. They actually got an apartment in the building, the not-for-profit building across the street. And this young guy was, I think, grade 4. And from what he had seen in Syria, from his home being destroyed to other things, he was so scared. He was scared of everything. If there was a loud noise, he would just immediately start to cry. And so they got settled in there. They came over here and were connected. And we thought, the best thing to do is to put him in summer camp. And he'll also get to know some kids so that when he goes to school, he'll have some friends. But it was really hard for him to come because he was scared. So we had one of our leaders in training and staff were very sensitive to this. They were, very careful about what they did with him. And he was able to come across and connect and make it through a week of camp. And then he came back at the end of camp, the summer, for a second week. And so now he had some friends, and he was able to go into school feeling more comfortable. So fast forward a couple years, and he sees across the street kids playing basketball, and he loved the idea of playing basketball. So he came in grade 6 and started playing in the basketball program, staged for some of the other youth connected programs. Then, gets to high school, COVID hits, so we don't see him for a little bit, but he makes the high school team, basketball team, as soon as basketball starts again. Fast forward a couple more years, this past year, so he had stayed involved, he got back involved in the leadership and training program. This past year he applied to be a camp counselor. And he ended up being like a star camp counselor. And he kept saying all summer that he always dreamed of being, one of the older youth. And he looked up to them so much. And now he was one of those, and he could give back. And it was one of those cases where it wasn't one program that made a difference. It was a variety of programs. It was a community of friends. It was some mentors and peers. And then it was the vision of, you can make a difference in other people's lives. And so he was so excited to come back and do that. At the end of the summer, when he talked to the other staff and he thanked them for, being a great team, and he had the whole group crying because they were just so proud of him and touched by him, and he had such an influence on them. And that's what we're trying to do. That's the whole story right there.
Gary, I love that story. I mean, there's so many people that probably that they don't have that opportunity. The child comes into this new community and he or she is on their own, and to see that there's a place where they can go and grow this way, and you see the results of it, it's so rewarding. I just love that story. And the thing is, maybe at the end of this interview, our audience will be able to see some of the facilities where these things take place. Well, we'll do a little tour at the end. So, of course, the next program is, we're working up the scale and age-wise here. You have the youth development programs. I like that one too, and unfortunately had to write down some points here. There's 4 key elements to the program you developed. Engage. The second one is connect, inspire, and the fourth one is support, encourage, and mentor. So I always like hearing organizations choose certain words, that describe their work, so to speak. Can you elaborate further on these key elements for us?
Yeah,
Understand how youth development works here.
We picked those words very specifically, and in part it was not because we're so smart, it's we were observing what had to happen. So it's a youth drop-in, and there's no cost to come. When you're grade 6, 7, or 8, you can choose. You're old enough, you can stay home after school, so you can choose where you want to go.
Okay.
And so we needed to find a way to connect with kids that they felt comfortable and they wanted to come back, and we needed to engage them in fun activities that would bring them here. So I have had people come and say, you should do a public speaking and you should have all these great ideas. And I said, well, a youth might need that, but are they going to come if it's their choice? Or are they going to go home with their friends and play video games? And so that connecting initially, so that there's some comfort and some familiarity in engaging in fun activities, gives us the opportunity to inspire them to develop, to be more, to get involved in other things. And then we supply the support and mentorship around them to develop them. We have had some other organizations call us, and youth organizations that have developed great programs. And the first question I'll get, and it probably happens once every 2 years, they'll phone and say, we've invested in developing these programs, we've researched other great programs, but we can't get kids to come. How are you getting kids to come? So part of it is we've connected with these kids when they're kindergarten, grade 1, 2, 3. So they're familiar with the place. Their families are here, so there's that connection. And then they hear about the fun activities. But it's through all that, keeping them coming, keeping them engaged for a long time, gives you the chance to develop them. And if you tell the majority of kids, hey, we're going to do this development program, they're going to run away. It sounds too much like school. They want to come for fun. But there are development opportunities. So those words sort of fit in terms of the reality of what kids are and how they think and what they want to do. But it's also important for us, hey, if we can't make a connection, a personal connection, if it's not engaging and fun and interesting, then why would they come? And so we've had to be creative and work hard to come up with something that really makes sense and works.
Well, it's not easy, right? Because, I mean, from my experiences dealing with a lot of families, a lot of kids in that age group that are struggling for various reasons, whether it's self-esteem or some bullying or some other scenario, studying, assimilating, mixing with their peers. But I noticed when I was here for that tour, there was that section where I'm sure we'll see later. There was somebody studying there, and they locked up their books, and then they would I think they mentioned, I'm on my way back to school or somewhere back. It's like they felt like it was a second home.
Yeah.
It's a nice environment for anybody who has issues that we all have, and especially at that age, you want to make sure that they're balanced and that you're there for them, right? So I really like that. Is there a story that small, quick one that shows the results of this programs that you've seen in your experience?
Yeah, I just to pick up before I tell the story is I think it's really important for all of us to recognize how society has changed for kids and youth over the last 20 years, but especially in the last 5 or 6. So if they graph out the incidence of mental health in youth, it was on a significant rise pre-COVID. After COVID, it went up even more sharply. There's been some interesting studies come out recently of the social anxiety, and they're saying now it's an epidemic in itself. Even into the 20s, there was a study that was recently out published by the New York Times, and they said, here's a positive, alcohol and drug use has really dropped, and in part because the 20-something age group is staying home. So they're not going out, they're not dating, they're not spending time with people, they're isolated and online. And if you trace that back to teenagers, they can show that the more a teenager is on social media, the higher their incidence of anxiety and social anxiety and other issues. And so in part, just getting people into the building, putting their phones away and socializing and developing relationships is really, really important. So we also have a high school here. So Halton District School Board has a high school that meets from 8 until 2. And these are all kids, students, usually they're in they should be in grade 11, but they're taking grade 10 courses up through to graduating. And these are kids that have fallen behind in their credits and they're not on track to graduate. The thing that brings them here usually is attendance issues. And so they've usually had interventions and they can't seem to solve this attendance issue. And so we did a pilot and tried, what if they came here? What if we got them involved in some volunteering? What if we created a different environment from their regular high school? What if they didn't have to interact and be uncomfortable with so many other students around? And they have, I think, 35 students registered and probably average 25 a day. Prior to coming here, they had about 30 kids registered and their attendance was 5 kids a day. So there really is an important need to understand and address and consider the mental health challenges that kids are having. And it's not their fault. There's been a whole bunch of things that have really magnified for that. So I think of a young student that came here, part of the high school, and attendance was terrible. And they got connected to the teachers, they got connected to some of our staff through a volunteer opportunity. They were very uncomfortable, but they became more comfortable just by being around. And then they did a co-op. So they got part of their high school credit was this co-op, and they worked with our food service team. And it was really fascinating to watch this person who would come in with their head down, wouldn't make eye contact, would miss a couple days every single week, to then, coming to, starting to come more often and then becoming part of the team. And like I would pop into their food service team meeting, and here you have this high school student that is interacting and participating as part of the team. And you would never know they had some of these, anxiety issues, shyness, discomfort in groups, because they had just become just comfortable and confident in themselves in how they could participate and how they could contribute.
We've come to the end of today's episode. I've enjoyed interviewing Gary O'Neill and learning about the core programs associated with food insecurity, children and youth development. We've learned that Kerr Street Mission has become a gathering place and a hub of care, offering help for the present and hope for the future. If you're a member of the community and you need any of these services Gary spoke about, reach out to Kerr Street Mission. Please watch our next 2 upcoming episodes on Kerr Street Mission as we continue my interview with Gary O'Neill on the wonderful work they are doing with their core programs. Kerr Street Mission deserves all the support they can garnish from members of the Oakville community. All of our episodes are available on YouTube. If you are a Cogeco subscriber, check your TV Halton Community Channel calendar and Cable 14 Hamilton for our scheduled viewing. We also love receiving your emails and reading your social posts. So if you are doing great things in the community that improve the quality of life for those within our vulnerable population and wish to share your message on a future webcast, send your request to info@cribwolftalks.com. Remember, there are people within our vulnerable population that need help. I'm Lino Farah. Thank you for watching Cribwolf Talks. Be well and stay safe.